welcome to Clawson Exercise. Hey, what is up guys, and welcome to Clawson Exercise Corner, starring me, Zach Clawson. I'll be your host. No, I'm just kidding. Today we are going to talk about hip flexors. We're going to have the hip flexor talk. I feel like everyone I know who works out, I kind of have to sit them down and have the hip flexor talk. Now, I'll show you what I mean here. Okay, so who knows what a hip flexor is? Me, I think it lifts your legs, but it's also your abs. Well, you're half right. People have this misconception that your abs start somewhere around here where you see definition, and then they go to your waistline. And this is just your abdominal section. When they go to work core, they just think, I'm just going to hit this little patch here. And that's what they do. And this is kind of typically what people think abs are. So, can you tell me where hip flexors are? Could you point on my body to where they are? See, most people can't. They don't understand them. They've maybe heard of them, but they don't really know where exactly they're located. And knowing where they're located is key in understanding how to work them, and more importantly, when you're working abs, how to avoid them. Your hip flexors, well, they are flexors that are attached to your hip. They go across your hip. They attach to your spine. I won't get into all the details. They attach to your spine, they run across your hips, and then they attach down on your thighs. And like any muscle, when it flexes, it contracts. So if I have a muscle that attaches in here, and it goes down to here, when it contracts, what is it going to do? It's going to shorten, and what is it going to do when it shortens? It's running over my hip joint, so it's going to pull this leg up. Okay, so that is the job of the hip flexor. It's to flex the hip. When I'm extending the hip, right, opposite side, it's going to be the opposite side of my body, right? Glutes. Glutes extend, hips flex, right? Your glutes could be called your hip extensors. Now this leads to a bit of a problem when people are working their core and they don't understand that just lifting your legs up is not what's working your core. A lot of exercises, core exercises, have you doing all kinds of things with your legs, flying around in the air and whatever, and your core is working just by stabilizing your body, just by keeping it still. Your core is trying to keep your spine together when you do things, when your legs are flying around. It's trying to keep your hips from breaking right off. Okay, that's what your core is doing. So when you're lifting your legs all over the place, your abs aren't lifting your legs. They're just stabilizing you. So in a way, you are hitting your abs, but you're only hitting them in a certain way. You're not really contracting them. You're hitting them in one type of way, which is good because we want to challenge our muscles in different ways. Like if I'm working chest, I don't just want to press, I want to get this action going, right? Or maybe if I'm working shoulders, I don't want to just press up, I want to maybe hold something in front of me for a long time. It's just a different way of hitting the muscle. Still functional, but there's people don't understand that there is this other element. Abdominals here. Abdominals attach at your ribs. They go down and attach to your hips, but they're not what lift your legs up. When I do this, hip flexors will pull my leg in. If I do this with my other leg, hip flexors again, right? It's not my core, it's my hip flexors. My core is not doing anything right now. But what if we make it an exercise? Hands down, and let's do this. Okay, one leg's going in, one leg's going out. Am I using my core yet? Nope, I'm still using my hip flexors. Okay, so what if I take my legs and I lift them up like this? Am I using my core yet? Kind of. It's starting to contract a little bit, but mostly I'm just using my hip flexors to pull my legs up into the air and back down. The only thing my core is doing is controlling the movement so that I don't go like this. Right? It's keeping me still. It's keeping my legs going straight into the air and straight down. That's what the core strength is doing. It's acting as your support. Okay, so what if I do crunches? Am I hitting my abs there? Let's see. I'm contracting. Torso region is contracting. My spine is bending. Yep, I'm using my abs. Am I using my hip flexors? Nope, they're not going anywhere. They're staying right here. I'm just doing a crunch, right? Abs are contracting. That's it. But what if I want to do a sit-up? Oh, There's the ultimate staple of ab exercises, right? Now watch again. I'm going slow. Did you notice something? I was moving up like this. My legs weren't moving, but my abs weren't contracting in. My spine was staying the same, but something was pulling me up. When my abs contract, I either go up like this or my hips come off the ground. But I was moving on a hinge. The only way that that's possible is if I was using my hip flexors. Hip flexors are currently pulling me all the way up. My abs are just, again, acting as support. They're keeping me from flopping back down with my spine. They're just keeping my back, they're just controlling my back as it comes up. But this hinge movement here, it's all hip flexors. Your abs are barely working here. So I don't know why it's the staple in core exercises. Okay, so how about another one? What about jackknives? Okay, I actually love doing jackknives. Legs out, and they come up, and back down. Right now, see? My abs are controlling me. They're what keep you stable. Okay? I'm guiding it back down, slowly. Now I'm working my abs right now like crazy. They're controlling everything. But me lifting my legs up here, this is hip flexor action. This is hip flexors. So don't think that you're just hitting your core when you do jackknives, because you're also hitting your hip flexors. Hip flexors, hip flexors, hip flexors. And now this last moment where I take my hips off the ground, the only way that I could do that is if I contracted my abs and back down. If you don't get your hips off the ground, you're not contracting your abs. You are using them, but you're not contracting them. Imagine your spine, and your spine has to be bending forward in some way or backwards in some way for you to be hitting your core, aside from stabilizing, of course. Okay, what about bicycle kicks? Okay, legs are in the air. I'm going in the motion. Am I using my abs? Yes, my hips are off the ground. They're contracted, and not only are they contracting, but they're also stabilizing. While I'm doing this leg motion, I shouldn't be talking while I'm doing this. I can't even breathe. While you're doing this leg motion, I'm holding my legs up with my abs, and I'm controlling my body by keeping it stable while I do this movement. This is an excellent ab exercise. Now I want to make one more thing clear before I go and upload a video like this. I'm not saying that doing sit-ups is not engaging abs. It is engaging them in some way. And a lot of ab exercises that use your hip flexors also engage your abs. I'm not saying they're not being used at all, but I'm saying they're not always being used in the way that you think they're being used. And you might be wondering why your ab development is taking so slow, and it might be because all your core exercises, you're sharing half of that time to work on your hip flexors when you could be spending all of your time working on core. Again, there's multiple ways of hitting your abs: contracting, twisting, and stabilizing, using it as support. Those are the ways you want to make sure you hit abs. You might hit hip flexors in there, and that's okay. Just make sure you do some studying on the type of exercises you're doing. Make sure you know what muscles you're hitting all the time so that you can utilize the workouts and exercises you're doing to achieve your goals. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, give me a like and a subscribe. I could really use those for building my channel. And stay tuned for more videos. Another Claw Snacks Corner coming up next Thursday. Claw Snacks out.